This episode of the Fight Within podcast is presented to you by Meguiar's. For over 115 years, Meguiar's has been carefully creating and producing advanced formulas with cutting-edge chemistry to deliver a show car perfect appearance. Whether you're showing on the fairway, finalizing your car for auction, or simply getting your beloved car ready for a weekend drive, Meguiar's is ready to help with their premium car care products to make every automotive surface look its absolute best. Meguiar's, reflect your passion. Make sure to visit them at meguiars.com.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Fight Within podcast. Today's guest is Mike Crea. He is the founder of Unsung Brewery. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate you and your time. And excuse me. Let's just get right into it. This in-house coffee's hitting me, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming out.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got to where you are, and why owning a brewery.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like in everyone's lives, there's like avenues and turns and pitfalls and things that kind of point you in the right direction. But I had what we were calling like a civilian job prior to owning your own company.
Yeah.
And it was desk job. It was suit and tie every day. I was in financial planning and 401ks and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, like, it wasn't exciting to me. It was more of something that, like, I felt I needed to do. I mean, that's what my dad did. And so I was kind of following in his footsteps, and he had his own company. And you're constantly as a young adult trying to get your parents, to really, be proud of you and all that sort of thing. And this was kind of an easy thing for me, I thought at the time. But my little twist in my life was I ended up developing a heart condition. I just had a 10-year anniversary of it. And so I was diagnosed, and then 3 months later had open heart surgery, complications, another surgery 30 days later, which I almost died at. And then I was living in Ohio, where I'm originally from, and my recovery and just all the experiences that the mental talks and stuff you have with yourself during that time just made my wife and I want to be not in Ohio, definitely warmer, and then just kind of doing something that I felt proud of and was happy about.
That's what. Before I forget, what was the heart condition?
It's called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Okay.
But I had, at the time, I was one of 5 with a rare condition of it. So basically, if you're ever watching the news or Sports Center and, they're doing 2 or 3 days with the NFL and some guy just drops dead and they say, oh, he had a heart defect or whatever, 9 times out of 10, it's cardiomyopathy. So what basically happens is your heart muscle works so hard that the wall starts to thicken. And because a wall of your chambers are thick, there's less room for blood in there.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of like your pump out there where your valve is opening, closing, but the pressure created inside that valve gives off a gradient. And so normal gradient is like 22, and my gradient was 145.
Holy smokes.
And so what would happen to me, which made me realize I needed to get checked out, was I go for a run or I do some kind of exercise, and I'd get extremely lightheaded, and I'd feel like I'd pass out. So I'd have to sit, I'd go for a long run, and I would sit on the street for 3 hours until I felt back to myself and could walk back. And so they were really hard diagnosing it. Luckily, I was in Cleveland, where the Cleveland Clinic is, and they have a division specifically for this condition. And my mom went in, and they tested her for it, and she had it. And they said, this is extremely hereditary. You should get your kids checked. And so myself and my brother got checked out. And they actually, after he checked me out, I remember my doctor said to me, he's like, no, your heart's beautiful. You look great. You don't have it. God bless. But then he goes, well, actually, what we should really do is we should throw you on the treadmill, and then we'll bounce you off.
The stress test?
Yeah, and we'll do the echo and see what your heart looks like. So my condition is where whenever my heart rate would go over 150, my mitral valve would basically hulk out. And it would basically, that's what was thick, not the wall of my heart, but the mitral valve. So, excuse me. So every time it would close, open, close, it stayed a little too long, and that's what created that pressure. And so now blood isn't getting to my brain fast enough and everything.
Lightheadedness.
And so he came in, and he was a funny guy. He's like, I don't fucking believe it, but you got it, and we've only seen this, 4 times out of the country, and you're probably going to need heart surgery in the next 3 to 6 months. We'll put you on some meds. Here's a support group for people that have this condition. And it was a blog at the time. And, let me know how you're doing in a couple weeks. So that was really, really eye-opening for me in a sense of, heart surgery. All that's really, really scary.
Yeah.
And so, like anything, I needed to learn everything about it. And so I did a lot of reading. I connected with people that had the condition, people that had the surgery. I watched the surgery on YouTube. I needed to know everything about it. And the time came where I would just, because now what they wanted me to do was keep my heart rate below 130.
Which is basically doing nothing all the time.
Yeah, for someone who's active and someone that likes to exercise. And I just couldn't live like that. And so I wanted to take the chance.
I only asked that because, one, it's your heart, but we went through like a scary situation with my mom in 2015 or 16.
I remember you talking about this back then.
Yeah, so it was a big deal, right? Like, you went from being healthy, or so we thought, to all of a sudden my dad and I are in Vegas for an ice hockey tournament, and my mom said she wasn't feeling it, her chest was hurting. My dad's like, well, dude, what are you doing? Like, don't mess around with your chest. She drove herself to the walk-in in Mission Viejo. The walk-in, not the emergency, walk-in. Walk-in person asked symptoms, blah, blah, and she was like, oh, I'm having chest pain. She's like, what are you doing here? You need to go to the emergency room at Mission Hospital. And my mom's like, okay, and they're going to call her an ambulance. She's like, I'm not paying for an ambulance. I'll drive over there. Drives herself to the emergency room at Mission, and again, a long story short, felt like we were not on an episode of House. She had a team of 9 doctors. None of them could figure it out. She had every doctor, like pulmonary, cardiac, like everything, all the doctors. None of them could figure it out. And turns out we have this family condition that has, I don't know the proper name and the terminology, but essentially we're very susceptible to like aorta dissection.
Oh, wow.
So one of
the
those,
other side of the chamber.
Exactly, the exact opposite. So, but the same thing where I could be working out and that valve could just be so dissected at that point where it's like, oh, you're opening the floodgates and you die. You have an aneurysm, essentially.
Did you get checked for it?
I do.
Okay.
And I go once a year now. But the crazy part is we found out now that my grandma was misdiagnosed, and that's actually what ended up killing her, was that. And then so when my mom went in, that's 2. Then my uncle went in, and unfortunately my uncle wasn't lucky. And he passed away from it. But 3 out of the 5 of them, and now like all of us have to get checked out, and it's something that's so scary that I would have never paid attention to. But I had an episode earlier this year where I was like, what is going on? What is going on?
Feel like a rhythm was off, or was it?
Yeah. And I would get these gnarly pains once in a while that just felt different. Yeah. It wasn't like a muscle pain, but apparently, I had to go do the echo. I had to do stress tests. I did the nuclear. I did everything that you could do because they know about my mom now, and they're like, oh, we're going to do everything. And thankfully, since I only have VA insurance, like the VA wasn't going to cover that, so I had to pay out of pocket for all of it.
Jeez.
But since my mom is there, thank goodness they were taking care of me. I mean, it was still more money than I would have liked to spend, but
sure.
It's your heart.
Sure.
And
I want to screw around with it.
Yeah, so every time I hear like heart conditions now, it like hits me a little different because I'm like, oh shoot. Like,
yeah, we did the same thing you did. Like, we started going back, my mom especially, like in her family and aunts and uncles, and we're like, well, that was a heart defect or that was heart disease. And then we started realizing, like, actually the symptoms sounded so similar to what I was having, what my mom was having. So like we went back and we're like, she probably had it. They just didn't know what to call it back then.
Yeah.
So so I mean, I don't know, like at the time I was 33, 34, and so like, I still had, I thought, better years ahead of me and everything.
Yeah.
But at this point I didn't know. And so anyways, I ended up going to do the surgery, and I was told that I was getting like the Michael Jordan of surgery, which his name was Dr. Smedera. I love the guy. He was a phenomenal surgeon. But he did sit down with me and he said, all right, what do you want? Do you want a pig valve or do you want us to put a mechanical valve in there? If you get a mechanical valve, you got to be on blood thinners the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because your blood sees a foreign object and it attacks it by clotting it. And so you have to be on blood thinners so that a clot doesn't get pushed out of your heart and it'll go right to your brain. You'll get an aneurysm. I said, well, that's not pleasant. He goes, but if we give you the cow valve, it'll probably be good for 10 years. You'll have to come back in and do another.
Same conversation with my mom.
Okay.
It's literally same exact thing.
Okay. So you understand. So I said, I don't give a shit. I want the cow valve. I go, because at least I'll have 10 years where maybe they'll be able to do something, which they do now, through catheter. They don't need to open you up anymore. Yeah. And my wife actually works for the company that designed that product now. It's Edwards Life Sciences. But in any event, he goes, okay, I'm going to first go in there and try to repair it, which means pull back your valve a little bit. And then I'll start your heart up again because, they shut you off and they put you on the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't look right, I'll put the cow one in, or bovine, excuse me. And so the day came for surgery, and I'll never forget the night before. I remember you had to wash with all this crazy soap the night before to get any type of bacteria off of you because you're going into open heart surgery. The worst thing could happen is infection. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and I was just like, this is the last time I'm going to see my chest look this way.
Yeah.
And it was eerie to me, and it hit me weird. I remember, and I still get goosebumps when I think about it. So I said to my wife, he goes, there's a 15% chance we're going to put a mechanical valve in you. And I'm a gambling man, so I was like, that's pretty fucking good, really. It's not terrible. And they're just saying that anyways because they have to say that. Well, sure enough, he went in, and he couldn't repair it. And he put the bovine in, and he said that it, within 5 years, it would have punched a hole through my heart. So he said the only option was to put the mechanical valve in. And my wife, God bless her, but she was like, I said to her, I go, when you come see me, just go like this, thumbs up or thumbs down, if it's
what you wanted or not.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a horrible thing to ask your wife to do after open heart surgery. So I remember waking up, and the thing that woke me up was this stopwatch, just tick, 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 tick. I'd never heard it before. I knew immediately I had a mechanical valve. And so she came in, and I was all drugged up, but I waved, it's okay. I know. So then I was in the hospital for, oh my gosh, it felt like months, but it really was about 17 days. And what they need to do is they need to get your blood thin enough in range before they'll send you home.
It's insane.
And it's a real bitch because they don't want to give you too much, so they're giving you a little bit, and your body has to get acclimated to it. And so now I'm stuck in this hospital room, and I hate life, and I'm seeing all these people on my floor that are doing laps with machines, and they're waiting for hearts, from an accident. This
Mm-hmm.
that, it was mind-boggling to see all these people that are in worse situations than me. And then finally I started going crazy. I was bouncing off the walls, and I said to the doctor, I go, please, is there anything you can do? I want to go home. I want to get out of here. And he's like, well, we can give you a shot. But the problem is the shot immediately thins your blood for 24 hours. Then you got to do another one. No, 12 hours, excuse me. I said, great. I got to shoot myself in the belly. I'll do it. That's fine. And so left. I had a follow-up a week later, was doing the shots. And the morning of my follow-up, I couldn't get out of bed. I never had that feeling before. My wife had to literally put her arm around her shoulder, my arm, sit me up, stand up. My father-in-law had to help carry me to the car. I just was completely spent and out of breath. And so I get to the hospital. They get a wheelchair for me, wheel me in. And my doctor came in, and he literally stopped, and he looked at the wheelchair, and he looked at me, and he was like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, I can't breathe. I can't stand. I can't walk. So within 6 hours, they rushed me immediately into another surgery. So what happened was my heart was so scarred up from them cutting that around your heart is a sac. And when I started doing those shots, it would make my heart bleed, and it filled up the sac outside. And so he said I was a couple hours away from complete cardiac arrest.
Sheesh.
And I came really close to being done. So they ended up taking a liter of blood out of that sac during the surgery. Yeah, and so that one hit me.
Yeah.
And I was back in the hospital, and the doctor said, "You're not pulling any of your shit anymore. You're staying in here until we say it's time for you to go home." And so that was it. And then there was recovery, and recovery was go up one step a day and, try to make it to the end of the driveway and back. And I don't know, man, you start thinking about this stuff and you be like, I can't walk from the kitchen to my bedroom by myself. Like, how am I ever going to get better? I'm on this blood thinner now, which freaked me out, because if it's too thin, you're going to have a stroke. Or excuse me, if it's too thin, you can bleed out, right? So I get rear-ended, or I get in a major car accident, and I have head trauma. My brain's bleeding. And if it's not thin enough, I'm going to have clots going through my brain and stuff. So I feel like since that point, my life's been a very, very big balancing act where I'm trying to stay not too high, not too low, but kind of in the middle. But I also use that philosophy in a lot of my daily activities and owning a business as well.
I think I'm starting to put together the brand, I'm assuming. So from there, like I got to get off the subject of the heart because you're killing me. Because I'm just like, it's those things where everyone thinks your heart's scary. It's your heart, right? But once you've gone through something like that, it like hits you differently. So I'm like picturing you, and I'm like replaying everything from my mom's thing, and I'm like, dude, it was the most awful thing. And it wasn't even me, but to be the one in the room that the doctor's talking to is my dad and I. Hey, you have to understand, like, her body was essentially shut off for 12 hours. Like,
and you have to make decisions, right? You
Yeah.
have to give advice and make sound decisions based on the info.
Yeah, it was being on the other side, your wife's side and family side. It was
Tough.
It was a thing. And now that I know that I could potentially have that, and like letting my wife know, like, hey, this is the thing. Like, it ain't going away. I'm gonna do my best to make sure I'm staying in shape and eating right. And
yeah, and I'm a big baby, like when I'm just sick or have a cold. And so I know my wife was like going, oh God,
Yeah, damn.
but
funny.
she was a trooper about it. So
Dang, well, 10 years later, or not 10 years.
This year was 10 years. She had to remind me again. I don't even think about that stuff. I was telling Manny about that. Like, when you own your own business, and it's a small business, how do you find successes? What do you define it as, first and foremost? And then how long is the success lived, right? It's extremely quick if you even get to, what you consider to be a success. And so my wife's there a lot of times to remind me of stuff, and I'll go, I don't think that happened like that. She's no, it did. Remember you were freaking out about this, and it worked out because you made the right decision. So, I think that the biggest problem I have from a day-to-day perspective is not stopping and smelling the roses.
Yeah, to just sit back and sometimes be like, oh.
Because every day is just such a head down, forward momentum. Getting better. Do best. Manage everybody properly. And try to put your best foot forward, that you don't really get the time to stop and look backwards.
Yeah.
What's the point?
It's true.
But it is important. So
I didn't realize yesterday was my 12-year Hidden House anniversary.
Is that
yesterday
right?
was the birthday of 12 years, and I didn't even realize it until my HR manager texted me, and she's like, hey, is today the 12th birthday? I was like, I don't know. Is it? I literally didn't know. So I had to go back on my Facebook to look up a memory. And sure enough, it was yesterday. I was like,
well, what do they say? 5? If you can get 5 years, that's pretty
in
amazing. 12
yeah.
is ridiculously
It's
successful.
crazy.
I mean,
it's nuts.
Don't a large percentage of businesses close within the first
5 years? Well, I think it's 1 to 3, and then like 4 to 5 is like you're getting there, and then I think they say 7+ you're golden.
And you could probably throw us in the restaurant category,
which is
those
shorter.
Percentages are worse.
Yeah.
Or hospitality. I don't know.
Hospitality restaurant. Yeah.
I gotta get my heart checked now, dude.
Dude, it hits you differently. Like when you listening to it, especially when you know people or someone close to you that's gone through it. It's a. And now that I have kids and I'm a family man too, I'm like, the stuff that I used to do when I was younger, that don't happen anymore. I'm like making sure I am taking care of myself to the best of my ability, and it's not even for myself anymore. It's for my family, right? And
One of reasons that my wife and I just decided not to have kids was, I didn't want to pass something on like that to someone, because they said if they had caught this when I was, 9 or 10, that's when it was showing up, they wouldn't have let me play football. I wouldn't have been in any organized sports or anything.
Your whole
like that.
life would have been different.
And that, we talk about this all the time, or I do to my employees. I like to use sports analogies because I'm a big sports fan, but the life lessons that I learned in sports are more or less the street smarts, if you will. For me, was better than the book stuff that I at least was able to retain or not retain in school.
I would agree with that statement for myself.
Just working in a team atmosphere, understanding everyone's roles and trying to get things accomplished. Everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
And, I think like to go to the 10th power would be your history with the Marines. Okay. I think that's, an uber, bigger portion of that.
Which I feel like if I would have known about my heart condition back then, or family heart condition, I don't know. They're kind of, I don't know if they would have let me.
Yeah.
Even though they didn't see it right now, they might not have let me.
Yeah.
And it's made me who I am today. So like, I get that. I took my 1-year-old to his checkup this morning, and they found like a heart murmur. That's all they're calling it.
Okay.
But it freaks me out because of the history with my mom now. And she brought it up again today. She's like, hey, I still hear, or he's a 1.5 years now, but she's like, I hear the same thing that I heard on his first checkup. Like, it's still there. She's like, I'm not too worried about it. I hear it often in children, especially when they're developing.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, but do some of those people have like a family hereditary like heart condition? She's like, well, you can go see a specialist. And I was like, great. How much is that going to cost? Like, and they tell me how much. And I was like, not that your kid's life is a dollar value, but it's also like sometimes they make it damn near impossible for somebody to get help unless you have top-notch everything, which we don't because we're business owners.
Small business, yeah.
I got a basic plan that provides for the 3 of them. I'm not even on it. And I was like, even still out of pocket, like the out of network pay, I was like, dude, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. But they'll keep monitoring that, and that's the beauty of it. The healthcare is just the technology side of it is way better.
And
now.
Saying it's gotten
diagnosing
So walk us through after that, and you had your recovery time, and kind of I know you alluded to it already, but you took a lot of that and kind of used it to make decisions to leave Ohio to come here. How did you get from that moment of thinking those bad thoughts that no one ever wants to have of like, well, man, like, am I going to make it? Like how you said you couldn't even walk to the bathroom on your own. How did you get from that to, having a Unsung, which is, if you're in the beer world, you know who Unsung is. Like, and to me, like, that's something super cool. Cause I think I met you shortly after you started, or you were just starting, I think.
Yeah.
So
through John, right? John had just
you guys
left.
met at Portola.
Right.
So how did you
I was
get
writing my
there?
business plan. So I'd go there every day, and that's how I got to know John.
Okay, and then John left like shortly after I think you guys met, because I remember going to Tustin Brewery. I think you were still setting things up.
Oh, yeah, we did a cupping on the different coffees. Yeah.
So
well, I think I don't know. I had done another podcast not too long ago, and one of the questions I got asked was like, how did you not fold, or how did you not just
quit?
Yeah. But like it struck me because, and this isn't, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I don't know why it wasn't a thought, it wasn't an option, and I don't know if it's because of the influence from my wife and her side of the family is really, really positive, but it was every day was about getting better, and so you physically get better, and then after you physically get better, you got to mentally get better because I was already messed up mentally prior to the surgery, and this just added a ton more on top of it. And so, there's a ton of I do a ton of self-talk, and sometimes I have to understand that it's head trash, and other times I need to realize, hey, Mike, you got to listen to yourself here. But, I had a lot of free time on my hands. I was out of work for 3 months, and so I don't know why I liked beer, and I just said, well, I'll start making beer. And so I was working on my garage, and I remember going to a couple of festivals, and I just wanted to get some feedback from people that have been doing it a little bit longer than me, and I got some favorable feedback, and I started to win some competitions that I entered, and my wife's brother lived out here, which we were really close, and we were visiting a lot, and we loved it, we thought that after living in Ohio and Cleveland and Minneapolis, we were pretty snowed out from a sense of just like, we're done with this shit. And so then we said, screw it. We keep spending money to go out there. Why not just see if it's possible? So we did. And, it wasn't like I just jumped right into brewing. I tried to get a job. I had 13 years of sales experience, college degree. I thought that was, good. And I couldn't get a job.
Dang.
I could not get a job. I couldn't get a phone jockey job at Pacific Life, just like working the phones. I didn't get that job, which pissed me off. And so then I was like, what the fuck? And so my wife was working at Johnson & Johnson at the time, and she's like, well, get into medical sales. People seem to do really well with medical sales. So I went and took all those courses, and I got certified. Couldn't get a job. I still get stuff in the emails about looking for a medical sales job. But during that time, I remember my dad saying, like, well, why don't you just like do a business plan? I didn't know what a business plan was. How many times? I guarantee you, have you looked at your business plan recently? The original one?
No.
You're probably afraid to, because it's totally not.
I honestly never wrote one.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Wow.
I'm a bad one to ask about that.
You know what? It's okay.
Yeah, I've never wrote one, never even thought about writing one. It's always been up here, which is, I know it's like business 101. You don't do that.
No. I see. I had to go out and get some funding, and so it's really, it's really, look at how gorgeous and beautiful this idea is. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to follow all this shit. This is a great idea, but really I'm going to do this. And so, so like I said, I would go and write the business plan, and then Tustin Brewing was pretty close to where we were living. Uh-huh. And I remember there was a brewer there by the name of Jared, and I remember hounding him. Please let me work for you. You don't have to pay me. I'll do whatever you say. I'll clean your boots. I just need to get some professional experience. Because I started taking a class. I was flying to Chicago to do, to try and get my master's in brewing. Uh-huh. And so it was this really cool course. It was like a 2-year course. The problem was, like, it was taught by like some of the greatest brewers, like from Miller Coors and Budweiser. And they're talking to me about high gravity brewing and this and that and everything. And I'm like, I'm not really going to be doing that stuff. Can we get back to like the intricacies of the different hop blends that I'm curiously into? And by the way, we're going to hop the shit out of this beer, so it's going to be a super West Coast IPA. And they looked at you like you were an idiot.
You're dumb, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially back then.
Yeah. And so I learned the basics. I can calculate IBUs longhand. Now they have these awesome programs that do it. And so Jared, after a bunch of times, was, said, all right, come on in. We're starting at 4:30 in the morning. And, the first time you say something or whine or cry or whatever, I'll kick you out. And I'm making him seem meaner than that. He really wasn't, but I knew what the gig was. And so I'm not going to get in depth about brewing, but the shitty thing about Tustin was on the second floor was their mill. Mm-hmm. So that's where they cracked all the grain.
That was the one on Newport Ave, right?
Yeah, it's still there.
Okay.
And so you'd get a pallet of 40 bags of grain. Each bag was 55 pounds. Each bag had to go up 2 flights of stairs because that's where the grain would go. Uh-huh. And so that was one of my first jobs. Cleaning kegs was another job. Scrubbing the floor with a brush was another job. All along, everything he was doing, I was peppering with questions. I was watching everything. I was listening. And I understood why he did certain things. We're going to run out of this beer. That means next beer is going to take 8 days to get to completion. We need to start it now. And so really was learning a little bit more of a discipline, a day-to-day discipline. Yeah, and then after that, I had finished my business plan, and there was never a point where it was like, "Hey, Mike, hit the on button. Now you're going to start a brewery." There wasn't anything like that. Okay. I want to say it was profound, but it wasn't. It was, I'll go look at some spaces, and I'll see how much it is in square footage. And, okay, I got that. Well, how about equipment? Well, all right, I'll look at that. I'll get a couple quotes and this. Okay. And then it was like, okay, so if you want this, here's a down payment. I remember I wrote a $65,000 check, which was the biggest. I remember shaking in my car.
As you were writing that.
I was like, there's no turning back after this.
Yeah.
I'm not getting this money back. I'm getting equipment to brew, and I was scared shitless. I wrote it and I did it, and then next thing you know, we were doing the build out, which construction's so fun.
It's a blast.
So we're fortunate. We have a kind of like your spot here. We have a production facility in Tustin, which is where our giant brew house is, and then we have a smaller system in the tap room in Anaheim.
Yeah, which I told him we're gonna take him there. I'm gonna take him there.
Oh, great, good.
Yeah,
Let me know.
Go on a date.
Yeah.
But how long was that? How long was that process of you doing all that crap? Because I'm sure for a lot of people, for me at least, if I knew that I had just overcome heart surgery, I went back, I moved out of state, I would not be humble about doing the stuff that you did. I'd be like no, I want something now. Yeah, like scrubbing floors. Like just, how'd you do it? Like, how did you stay humble enough to be like I'm going to learn as much as I can in this amount of time, because that's going to lead me to me being able to open up my own business.
Well, before you even answer that too, you were in your mid-30s at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Think about like today's culture. Dude, you got a freaking 18-year-old out of high school and they want $200,000 a year. It's like, no, bro, it don't work like that. Like that, I want to add that before you answer that question so people understand.
And then you
like,
have a wife, and you know
you're an adult.
Yeah,
Right.
you're a grown man.
You're not a punk kid. Like you're an adult.
Yeah, I guess I knew that our industry wasn't that different from a kitchen, where you don't just become a chef or you just don't become the lead,
The top
cook.
dog. Yeah.
You do the crap and the dirty work. And the other thing though that didn't make me go to where you said was that I come from a blue collar environment, a blue collar city, and I was trying to be more white collar because, you know, there's a lot of benefits financially in those types of jobs and everything. But I learned when I had a house back in Cleveland, and you got, you know, half an acre, and you're cutting the grass every weekend, and that to me was instant gratification. Like, yard looked like shit. I could go and do a ton of work on a Saturday, which, by the way, is ridiculous, and I don't think anyone should do it, but that was my instant gratification, and I wasn't getting that in my job. So hard work, I knew, was a benefit to anything that you're doing, and being proud of something that you're doing. So that's kind of where my mindset was at, and I really enjoyed blue collar work because there was that instant gratification. Today it's different, obviously. It's hard enough to get people to have a mentality of that. It's you know, I just knew if I wanted to get anywhere, I had to start from the bottom and work my way up. And there was a big jump, right? I was cleaning boots and shoes and stuff and kegs, and then I was opening up a brewery. So I didn't go from there to the next step, which was being an assistant brewer and then a cellarman and all those things. And so little did anyone know, and no one asked me. I talked to Jared the other day, and he was like, dude, I never knew you were opening up a brewery. Why didn't I go, you just never asked me, dude. And he goes, fuck. I go, yeah, I would have told you, but I wasn't stealing recipes or anything like that.
Yeah. But I think people too, like they probably just saw you as like someone that's like, oh, they need a job. He just moved here type thing.
Jared's back was hurting. That's what it was, really.
So that's why you were able to get in there?
Hell yeah. Yeah.
That's so funny. So you, after working at Tustin and you found the space, you wrote the check, did you raise funds, or did you just kind of bootstrap it? Because that is a business question that I get asked quite often, is like, oh, like, how do I get money? Or did you do it all? And because for Hidden House, we've never taken an investor. We've been self-funded the whole time, but that's why it took us so dang long to grow.
Same, 100% the same. What I knew at the time, and I think my mindset's changed with this now, but I wanted control. What I was trying to do, everybody said to me, I don't get it. I don't know why you're doing that. It doesn't make sense to me. The one thing I knew...
Brewing, or how you were doing it?
How I was doing it.
Okay.
So, and those conversations usually revolved around somebody that was like, okay, well, you need to sign with a distributor day one. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do that. Well, why not? Don't you want your beer out there? Don't you want to grow? Don't you want people to know who you are? Absolutely. but I wanted to do it organically. And there's a huge stigma in our industry that when you sign with a distributor, they own you. There's some states, I think Vegas is still one of the states where if I was a brewery in Nevada, I couldn't sell my beer. I'd have to go through a distributor.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so Big Beer kind of has their lobbyists out there, and they've taken control of the industry. We make up 9 to 10% of total beer sales, and that, rightfully so, obviously pisses Big Beer off. But I wanted to grow organically. I wanted it to make sense to me. I knew how much I mean, we distribute beer now. We're in Disney, at Angel Stadium, and places like that, places that make sense. But we get murdered on distribution.
Yeah.
Here's a perfect example. I went to see Paul McCartney last Friday, and it was at SoFi Stadium, and I'm in line, and all I wanted was an 805 from Firestone. It was 20 ounces, and it was $19. And in my head, I immediately go to the math. I'm like, okay, let's just say it was like 20 ounces in the keg, and the keg was probably $165, 90 beers times 19, and then I just like $1,800 profit on top of the keg. And like I started getting mad. But you know, in sense of what you're doing as well, we make our money by being able to sell a pint for $6 out of our tap room.
Which I feel like you should even be charging more.
That's our low end.
Yeah.
But so our mindset now is to open up at least 1 or 2 more tap rooms. I've wanted to do that. We came close right before COVID to signing a lease. And that's just something that I'm not going to... Everything has to be right. The location has to be right. And you know what? I did actually take a lot of advice from you when you guys expanded and took on a lot of stores and everything like that. And I kept saying to myself, like, imagine what you do, Mike, now. Multiply it by 3 or 4 in a day. It's not humanly possible to do it.
It's awful.
Yeah, I bet.
There's a reason why I got rid of all of them.
So I don't want to do it just because it's something that I know we need to do. Everything's got to make sense.
But why don't you think more entrepreneurs aren't more patient? Is it because they're just younger, or is it just the generation? Like, what's your honest opinion on that? Because I remember I had at least 3 buddies that were like, we're going to brew our own stuff. We like beer. We're going to make our own beer. And they never pursued it. I don't know the first thing about the industry, so I don't know if they got burnt out or it's too much. But it seems like they just wanted everything now. Like they just wanted
instant gratification. People, that's what they want.
It's hard, right? So there's that dopamine thing. When you get that instant gratification, you feel good about yourself. It's a confidence booster, all of those things. I wasn't built that way, I guess, in a sense. Like, I know that anything good that happens to you has to be from some type of a hardship or hard work. It's just the way it is. And honestly, I'm going to sound old, and I'm definitely going to show my age, but it's a struggle. You know, a lot of my employees that we've had over the years fit into that realm. Yeah. And I'm always constantly like, and I'm the idiot, right? I'm the one that's like, well, I'm going to come in and I'm going to work hard and I'm going to show and lead by example.
Lead from the front. Yeah.
They don't see that.
Yeah.
Whereas if I was in their shoes and I saw someone busting their ass and really, really like someone you respected that didn't look down on people that did certain aspects in the brewery, and the guy didn't care about getting dirty and solving problems and to this day, I still love every aspect of the beer brewing process, and I still brew. I'd latch on to someone like that. That would inspire me. It's different. I was really wrong about that, where I thought, you know, lead by example, be silent, carry a big stick. They don't see that.
That right there is a cultural shift in the sense of not ragging on our younger generation, but it is what it is. Like, I feel like there's still going to be obviously good ones, but sure, as a whole, I'm going to just, you know, kind of categorize everyone. But I feel like our age groups is pretty much like the last of the hardworking, and as a whole, because when you see, like, I mean, Manny's got a 16-year-old kid. He's in Mission Viejo High School, right? Yeah. You look at all their friends and all their peers. It's nice cars. Everything's handed to them. Maybe some of them are still working. You know, their parents are trying to instill in them. But as a whole, that's what they see. You know, they see, oh, Dad, my buddy just got a brand new 5 Series BMW. Like, why don't I have a car? Well, why don't you go get a job? Like, you know, but it's a cultural thing where I see it too, you know, where I employ predominantly the age range for I think we have 46 staff right now, and the average is 21 to 25. That's like our average. We have some that are, you know, late 20s, early 30s, but for the most part, 21 to 25 is the age range. Either some of them just finished their bachelor's, they're in the middle of it, or the other half is they're all getting their master's, so they're, you know, working a job that allows them to do that. And the ones that are, it blows my mind when going through and I see it now, where I'm like, oh, there's some that stand out where they'll latch on, they'll ask questions, they'll say, hey, like, what else can I do when I'm here? Like, you know, I don't want to just get by.
Yeah.
And those are the ones you're like, shoot.
I notice those.
Yeah.
I look for those.
Yep.
Those are the people that I want running my books. Those are the people that I want managing my stuff. Those are the people that I want in my inner circle.
Mm-hmm.
And so our brewer now was a guy like that started in the tap room, but he was always trying to get in our conversation. He was listening to what we were doing. He wanted to be in that inner circle. And then he's like, you know what? I don't like brewing, but what does Unsung need? Well, we need a cellarman. Okay. It's a shitty job. Okay. You're still going to have to work in the tap room. Okay. And did it. And now he's our head brewer. And he probably will tell you to this day, he's still not a huge fan of brewing, but he likes being able to mentally manipulate the recipe and the brewing process to create something that's new and unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important when you're in a business like ours to not get stagnant, complacent. We talked about that. And so to have a brewer that is forward thinking, and, you know, he idols breweries that we are trying to, you know, esteem towards. And, you know, all the time he's asking me, he's like, why can't we put marshmallow in this beer? Why don't we put marshmallow in this beer? And I'm the old guy that's like, oh, fuck the marshmallow. Like, nonetheless, we did a beer with marshmallow, and it's been the top seller in our tap room the last 3 weeks, right? So, like, I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know everything. You know, I want to be proud of my business, and I think I am, but there's certain stuff that we do to let the business make money so that I can do what I really love at the business. And a lot of people say that our industry can be really weird, but there's a lot of breweries that still don't do hazy IPAs. That was a big no-no. And I'm always like, do them.
Yeah. Well, dude, Metaplex, this is a hazy, right?
No, it's our West Coast.
West Coast, okay. Metaplex is one of the best freaking tasty beers I've ever had. I love that beer.
That's what I drink.
I love that beer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I love hearing. We said it before, but you know, I've known you for a while, and I didn't know a lot of this. I knew you had the heart condition, but I didn't know how and what. And then, like I said, I referred to it as like a grown-up job, you know, and I didn't know the in-betweens and how you got to where you're at. So for me, selfishly, on the platform that we have, I love being able to hear stories in this setting, because unless we were all out going and having a beer or something, and I ask targeted questions, you're not going to ever hear this. But Manny and I say it all the time, that our hope and goal is just like that your story will help like spark something in someone, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. Like, we want it to help maybe change and shape. Maybe someone's in their mid-20s and they're trying to figure out what in the heck they're going to do with their life.
I guarantee you that's a good point. I was going to say, whoever's listening to this, if you are, that until the end of time, hard work will always get recognized. People will notice it. They'll see it. Unselfishness is huge. And that's how you can stand out in an industry or a place that you want to be great at. Hard work, long hours. It sounds horrendous, but I can tell you, and I think you'll say the same thing, I love what I do today on a daily basis. Is there problems? Tons of problems, from leaky pumps to grain doesn't get here on time to a beer doesn't settle right. But I love everything that I do. I love everything about my business and what we do. The monkey wrench, or the thing that they don't teach you, or they don't have a class about, is, well, what do you do when the entire country shuts down?
Yeah.
How do you survive? And my dad, who's a mentor of mine, I remember him saying to me, he's like, Mike, look, come up with some ideas, have a plan. But if you get through this, you can do anything.
Yeah.
If you can survive, and we did. He's like, this will toughen you up and make you unstoppable. And I truly believe that because, again, having some type of adverse reactions or adverse effects to things is where you kind of figure out and improve.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It's 100% true.
I think people do. Like, I was listening to a podcast on the way up here, and one of the guys was saying how he found out through just talking to family and friends that he was addicted to chaos. Because he felt like the moment that he resolved something, it was like, oh, it was fixed, and now that stress has been overcome.
Would he create the chaos to
He
overcome?
wouldn't create it.
Okay.
So he's
But-
the dopamine effect.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it is. Even now, because it's not like this morning, I had to drive all the way to Oceanside for a client. I had to come back to do this interview at 1, right? But my car's also getting fixed. So I have a buddy going to the house. The part wasn't there. I got to call the auto part place. I got to get a key because I forgot. There's like all this crap going on. Now we're doing the interview, and I'm still like texting my buddy like, hey, go pick up the part.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm super happy that things are being taken care of.
Yep.
But the fact that he was like, I'm addicted to the chaos, I was like, no, man. Because I used to say that. I used to tell my wife, like, oh, I think I'm addicted to struggle. Because then the moment I overcome that, there's a sense of gratification.
Yeah.
Like, I know that if I overcome accomplishment, exactly. Like, if I know if I overcome this, I can do X, Y, Z. But then at the same time, I think the people get comfortable, like we were talking about off air. Like, the moment I signed to Bellator, I didn't train as hard as I did when I was trying to get there, because I was like, oh, I made it. When I should have been training harder. It's like you were saying, when people go in the postseason, like they get into another gear. It's like, oh no, and I didn't have that for the longest time, And so it's interesting to hear stories like yours, because it really puts things into perspective for someone like me that's starting on that journey. Even though I've had the business since 2016, it's like I don't need to be attracted to chaos or to struggle. Like, there's people that have done things before me. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to work hard. It just means that I have to avoid certain mistakes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, the best phrase that we've all heard, but you forget, is complacency kills.
Right.
The second you get complacent is when you start to let off that gas pedal, right? And it doesn't need to be, at least in my own opinion and what I've gone through, especially the last 2 years, like I just learned, like, it's not about just like staying complacent. Like, obviously you don't want to be complacent with anything, but what I've developed and what I've started to see, and I think we can all attest to this during the last 2 years, is, especially in these industries, like our industries, the service, hospitality, food, is you just have to be willing to pivot. And if you cannot pivot and you cannot make those micro adjustments or even macro adjustments, like whatever it is, like if you cannot just do it, orient in a different direction and move forward, then you're not, if I'm just going to be blunt, you're not going to succeed in anything.
I like options as a
Yeah.
business owner. One thing I'll say about the complacency thing is that I think it's a natural aspect of human nature.
Mm-hmm.
I would lie if I was telling you that I've never gotten complacent on a day-to-day basis. It's, kind of creeps in here and there and everything. I've become really good at recognizing it. And so my whole thing is, like, if I can recognize something, whether it's an issue, a problem, or I can look in the mirror and I can have a real conversation with myself. Well, once you understand the issue, then you can kind of work on solving it.
Yeah.
Or work on it. Now, where it sucks and where I get into trouble is the outside stuff that I don't have control over. The last 2 years, a lot of that was out of my control. That wasn't acceptable to me.
Yeah.
So the options, or the ability to be able to pivot, for example, when we make a beer, some of it goes in a can, some of it goes in a keg. And normally we know that before the beer's made. During the last 2 years, I've never switched those ratios up from beer to beer so much in my life. And it was mind-boggling because everything was to go, right?
Yeah.
Get it out of the kegs and throw it into cans. And then 2 weeks later, it was like, oh, well, people can come in now. But I'm like, oh, shit, we don't even have any in kegs.
Yeah.
And so then, so the pivot thing, or like you're saying, like the options of whatever it takes, I'm going to get my beer into people's hands, was the name of the game.
Yeah. The old school just like grunt mentality, just do the grunt work and get it done. I was pre-COVID, I now know, I mean, I knew then, but I was enjoying it because I had so many years of the chaos that I was so complacent. I had, people like John in place. I had shop managers. I had this. I wasn't even pushing the gas pedal. I put it on cruise control. And
well, you're starting a family too. I mean, there's a lot of,
there was a lot, but looking back at it, I was like, holy crap. Like I got so complacent to the point where I literally, like I said, I was off the gas pedal. I was on cruise control, which is, that's what everyone's like business dream is, right? Build something up to get it on autopilot. Yes, but you can still adapt and grow and change while you're on autopilot. I forgot that. And
well, I wanted to, I talked to Manny before. I wanted to ask you guys, like, what do you define as success? What I mean, is it a lot of money in your account? Is it winning X amount of matches? Is it building a company that's worth X amount of dollars? That's success. Like, how do you define success in your own personal life?
I say for me, success is, honestly, it's if you would have asked me that question like 6 years ago,
right,
when we, closer to when we first met, I would have been like, oh, my coffee shop needs to be the biggest in not just Orange County, but I need to be big, right? People need to know my name, not my name, my company's name. Now, if you ask me that question, success has radically changed differently to me. Success for me is having the ability to provide something that provides something else for other people. So whatever that is, like Hidden House has become a really like
staple
a staple in Orange County. It's become a safe haven for people. I've witnessed people over the last few years, 12 years, but more so in the last couple years, where I've really started to pay attention to the other things besides how busy your stores are.
Yeah.
The relationships that have formed, the wedding ceremonies that we've been a part of, the staff that has become family to me, the ones that have the Johns, you hired him as a little punk barista kid and now he's running his own company and has a family. And for me, success is seeing that, seeing the influence of culture that we've been able to be a part of. I'm not going to take credit for it because I wouldn't have been able to do it without the amazing people I've had.
But you were a part of it,
But the fact that I got to be a part of it, that I got to kind of, steer the ship, as you will. And another like form of success for me is like the fact that I can sit back and be like, dang, like I did the best that I could do. And I never sacrificed like my integrity. I never did any of that other stuff that you hear a lot of horror stories about. Like I did something that I'm proud of. And if that was all it was for me, then sure, it served its purpose. But when I was younger, it would have been like, oh, I need to build 20 stores and have an exit. I mean, that would still be great, but that's not success to me. That might be a different version of success.
But then if you didn't do that, then all that, I do that head trash thing again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Who the hell says, why can't I dictate what success is for me?
Yeah.
Maybe success is getting knocked down and getting back up for me.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just like small things throughout the day. Well, that was you were successful in that, Mike, or you made good decisions here or there or something like that. But I don't know. What do you think about success in terms
being
of
filthy rich? No.
Yeah.
I think to a certain extent, yeah, because I've always loved when people talk about, like I was listening to a sermon on the way up and they're like, oh, everyone always says like money's not everything. It's like, yeah, when you have it, like when you don't have it, yeah, money is everything. Mm-hmm. You're trying to do it. But I would say, I don't know, to me success is different. I'm like Ben. Like if you would have asked me a couple years ago, I would have defined it different. I want to have the ability to take care of my family. If my family can be taken care of, and by that I mean, my wife has a safe car to drive the kids around. We live where we want to live. Mm-hmm. I get to go to work every day and do the things that I'm passionate about and love. My wife can do the same. My kids are growing up in a stable environment, and I think that to me is success. That whatever I do is providing that type of life for them, it is success.
Without a doubt.
Because when I was competing, I thought success was just becoming a world champion. I was like, screw everything else. If I'm a world champion, I can take care of everything else. Because so much of the world teaches you that you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of other people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true to an extent. But the lovely thing about marriage is that you have a partner to do that with. You don't have to do it on your own. I grew up thinking I had to do everything on my own. No one's going to help me. No one's going to do it for me. No one's going to get up and tell me I have to go do these things. No one's going to want success for my business more than me. And that, to an extent, is a lie. Yeah. Because there's people that care. There's people that want to see you succeed. That to them is success. Is when you're successful, when they have helped you without wanting any credit. To some people, that's success. So I think everyone defines success different, and I'm sure that in 5 years or 10 years we'll define it different too, because we'll be at a different stage in our lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to be able to do what I'm passionate about. I think, without sounding too cliche, life is too short.
Yeah.
And especially after hearing a story like the things that you went through, life is too short to not go and pursue those things when you have all the resources and every opportunity in the world to go pursue those things,
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing for me, at least, and looking back, and I do this a little bit now, but to me, the scariest thing was what I was going through, the hard thing. And so, like, I didn't think it was possible to go through something scarier. When starting your own company,
It's pretty dang scary.
really scary. But I always went back to the sheer point that, you've accomplished stuff with your health. Health was a big thing for me too, dude. When I came out here, like, I beat the hell out of my heart because I needed to know. And so when I went back to get tested again, he's like, "Oh, your heart looks great, I would go out in 100-degree weather, go to Peters Canyon, run up the mountains and everything. I wanted to see where my limit was, so that I didn't have any limits, in a sense. But yeah, no. One thing I'll add is, I used to think that success was like not having debt or something, especially in a company. And I wish somebody would have told me that, like, whether you're $100,000 in debt or $1 million or $2 million in debt, at some point it just becomes a number.
Yeah.
And that it's pretty hard to own a company, small business, and not carry around
some form of a liability debt.
Yes. And so my head was always like, well, if I don't get rid of that debt, then I'm not a success. But any business or any new startup requires a tremendous amount of capital, working capital. And, I hate saying this, but I realized that really, I'm doing something that I love. I don't get paid a ton of money to do it, but at some point when I want to get out, I'll sell it. And that's going to be your
401k from a standard job. Yeah.
Sure.
I say the same thing because, I don't work for somebody else, so I don't have all these added benefits. But
yeah,
I mean, it's been cool to see, just in the time I've known you, man, like, to see what you've been able to accomplish. And I'm not just saying this because I'm, like, biased, obviously, because you're my friend, but, like, I've always loved your company. I feel like I've told you that since day one.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, we picked his tap room to have our rehearsal dinner. Like, that, that's how much I love, like, what he did. And he was, it's one of those things where you could probably say the same thing that I just said about Hidden House, where you've become part of people's communities. You've witnessed relationships. You've seen this. You've become a place for people to feel safe and to gather. And that kind of stuff to me is just like, it's priceless, because there's a lot of breweries around, the United States, but in Orange County now in particular, there's a freaking crap ton of breweries.
Tons.
But there's not a lot that I would pick a date night spot where I don't get much free time with my wife to go to, and yours is still one of them.
Thank you, man. That's nice of you. That's that we see a lot of times where people come in and that's where they had their first date, and we hear all those stories, and that's what makes me happy because it is community based. I didn't realize that when I first started the company that the neighborhood.
Yeah.
When it's a Wednesday in January and it's darker earlier and everything, and you're happy to make a few $100 at the tap room, but it's those people that come out, that's your neighborhood community, and they grasp onto something that you're doing and they like it, and they can our brand, we kind of wanted to do that, where we wanted people to be able to latch on to it and see little similarities between themselves and that kind of thing.
And that's where the characters are like kind of derived from, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
it's unsung. It's like all the characters are different, like heroes.
Yeah, we created
Okay.
all of them, their backstory, everything. We just didn't want. At the time, there were so many trademark laws. We just didn't want to get sued. And now, we're a mile away from Disney, and there's still some
Stuff.
touchy stuff where I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. But yeah, so we create each beer that makes it onto our cans, an illustration, kind of like the first cover of a comic book.
Yeah, it's super cool.
That's cool.
Well, like I said, man, I love what you do. There needs to be more people that hear what you just went through. Like, it's not, you don't have and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but you don't have like this cool, like glamorous, like, how did you become Mike from Unsung? I mean, you do, in the sense of you had a radical life altering thing happen to you in what people would think, oh, you're going to have, like, again, you said at the very beginning, but your best years are ahead of you. You've gone through your awkward 20s, you've established yourself, you're a real adult now, and you had a life altering situation happen where a lot of people could easily just turtled up and just, well, that's what happened to me. But you didn't, and you took that, and you strived, and you worked hard, and you continue to work hard. And I think the biggest takeaway that selfishly I want people to hear from this is, if you're in a business for 12 years, or you're starting a business, or you're even just working a 9-to-5 and you're miserable and you want to do something else, it's never too late to start. Just do it. Like Mike said, Manny said it, I've said it, work hard and just roll with punches. Like, people don't, I think we're losing that as a people. We're losing the ability to be able to just go after what you want and not stop till you get it, because of the stupid social media instant gratification world we're living in, where it's like, who cares if this dude's posting Bentleys and Ferraris? Some of them are probably rented.
Yeah,
a
lot of them are.
At least.
It's like, just work hard.
And the other thing I'll add is, like, the fact of doing something that you truly love. Don't just think you love it. Truly love to do something. The value of that is invaluable. I can't put a number on it. You know what I mean? So I could sit at a desk job and make a percentage on all the 401ks that we wrote or whatever, and that's easy money and everything like that. I wasn't happy. I was miserable. I'm happy what I'm doing now. I'm making less money, but I'm proud of it. You know what I mean? And I can't put a dollar amount on that. That mental happiness, the waking up and jumping out of bed to go to work type stuff.
Yeah.
And
the
so
emergency on a weekend.
for me, that's a big thing,
Yeah, well, you've built something that people can resonate with, and I think that's something as creators of something that holds so much more weight to me now as I'm older and I've been in my journey longer. Previous, I could have cared less. Oh yeah, they know who Hidden House is. I don't care. But now when I'm out and about and I see someone wearing my shirt and I have no clue who they are, I'm like, that is really cool.
That's rad. Yeah.
And they have no clue who I am.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where I'm like, the older I get, I'm like, like that's a successful moment for me, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like we got a notification. Well, I did. I don't know if you have Shopify on your phone, but someone like bought a hat, and that to me, I was like, I can't wait to text Ben. That's so rad.
Yeah.
And I text them, but
because you created something and someone they want to support it. They want to take their hard-earned money and support it. Yeah. And that is something that will always stick with me now, is if you're coming into my business and you're spending your hard-earned money, especially during COVID.
And now,
and you are still coming in and purchasing something from something that I started, like, my staff better treat you with the utmost respect, because that's what we deserve. You are paying the customer, your client, your whatever, is paying you to do what you love to do. And that now holds so much more like volume and weight to me as I understand it a lot more now.
More so than us, but Ben, anyone can go anywhere and get a cup of coffee nowadays.
Yeah.
Okay.
Literally everywhere.
They're coming to your spot for a reason, right?
And we're out of the way.
Yeah.
We're not convenient to get to. So that even makes me more
happy and proud. Yeah.
Yeah. But Mike, I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing.
I appreciate you too, man. Thank you for inviting me. This has been really, really awesome.
And next time, Manny and we're gonna have to go to the tap room.
Yeah, I'm down.
I gotta take some like stomach pills.
Once
or
I get my
something
car
first.
fixed.
No, I'll drive.
Okay, cool.
It's right, dude. It's really cool. It's a really cool area. You probably never. Have you been to the packing house before?
Yeah, in Anaheim?
So it's across the street.
Yeah.
It's called, what is it called?
The Make building.
The Make.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a creator's little space, but you guys would love it. But Instagram, is it
At
just
Unsung Brewing.
At Unsung Brewing.
Yep.
Definitely, if you're a beer person, get some Unsung, drink it, chug it, drink more. But any other last thoughts, my friends?
No, I thank you so much for coming on, man. It means a lot. I gotta hang up on my wife. Sorry, babe. But yeah, no, I appreciate you opening up and sharing your story. I think it's hard to face that again. You know, I don't know how often you talk about it, but to kind of face that again and for you to just open up and be honest about it is really, I'm grateful for that. And I know Ben is too. And thanks for coming on, man. So you guys make sure to go check them out. Do you have a website that people can go check out?
unsungbrewing.com. I'll mention in this coming weekend we have a Loggerfest. We're gonna have 11 lagers on tap, which
dang.
we're really proud of. With a commemorative glass and everything, we're gonna kind of German out the tap room. But I love what you guys are doing here. I think the message is an important one, and it's interesting to hear other people's mindset and where they're at and stuff. So big fan of you guys now. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This weekend.
This weekend, yeah, 21st, 22nd, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, sweet.
Ooh, we might have to go.
$6 beers.
down.
Times are tough. We didn't want to, we're not gouging people. We want people to come and be able to have 3 or 4 beers. And
Well, send us some stuff. We'll repost it on our social.
Oh,
too.
sweet. Okay, we'll do
Yeah,
it.
that way some people hear about it. Well, Ben, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike,
Thank you,
big
guys.
thank you. And remember, guys, that everything was impossible till someone did it.
Nice.